Jacinta Price. She's a very polarizing character. Uh, she, I guess, first came to prominence, or most people fully became aware of her, in the discourse around the vote, the referendum for the voice, which was allowing unelected representatives of, well, I'd say Aboriginal communities, because I think it was like Aboriginal people as a whole, but I mean, they've all come from uh, the people of, say, central western New South Wales are very, very different to the people of northern Australia. They have different demands and had different cultural experiences. But the idea of the voice was that Aboriginal people would be given an unelected position or a seat effectively into, if not into cabinet, but certainly into very heavy political decision making. Well, by and large, and it was very polarizing, a lot of the coverage about it. Anybody who was against it was slandered as being racist. And you certainly have people saying, oh no, we've got to certainly create this because people are underrepresented, they don't have a voice, etc., etc. Nothing is stopping them from appearing as a candidate and representing their local electorates, etc. And if they are not elected, then they're obviously not representing what the people around them want, or maybe going at the state level as a senator. All right, maybe there just isn't the depth of interest to support those cases or support those causes, despite what you might see in media. You also had people with Aboriginal heritage coming out against the voice. Now, the assumption, rightly or wrongly, that a lot of people had at the time was that if you were of Aboriginal heritage, that you would be backing the voice because it will allow you to have a greater say in things. Whether that say was an appropriate say or not, well, that's a separate issue. The eventual split on voting was very eye-opening, and I'm kind of surprised that there wasn't more investigation or wasn't more reporting or papers written on, as in academic investigation and papers written on the split of voting. But a lot of the support for the voice came out of urbanised centres in Southeast Australia, well, basically the cities. And the greatest rejection of the voice came from the rural communities and regional areas where the Aboriginal population was the greatest. I don't think it was racist to say that the closer people lived to the Aboriginal populations, or the greater percentage of Aboriginal population within an area, the more people voted against the voice. Even to the point that you're left scratching your head wondering why areas that were predominantly Aboriginal voted against it. Either they didn't understand it, and then people said, oh, it failed because the messaging failed and people didn't understand what it was supposed to be. Well, I think people understood what it was meant to be. It's just people didn't want it. But anyway, Jacinta Price, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her middle name, rose to prominence as one of the voices against. I think she was initially for a little bit, and she even even changed political direction as a result of it. She was one of the most vocal voices against, and because of her Aboriginal heritage, people felt they couldn't criticise or critique her position, and yeah, it kind of undid the voice, which I think was a bad idea in the first place. I mean, we don't have laws saying you can't be elected to Parliament if you're Aboriginal. There's nothing like that. So if people feel underrepresented, then they should politically activate like that. You shouldn't be given a position of authority like that, or a position an unelected position like that to have such a great impact on resulting policies and implementations. Plus, there's also a concern about how people were going to be appointed to that role. The moment you create a position of power like that, especially one that's unelected, you start attracting the wrong sort of attention. But anyway, so Senator Price, as weighed into the whole migrant questions of migrant issues and stuff that's going on. In the wake of the rallies over the weekend, and she's focused on the Indian community. Now, obviously, I talked yesterday about how declaring the Indian community as one sort of monolith is not necessarily a good idea, because there are many cultures within India, and that it would be incorrect to assume that a Sikh has the same interests as a Hindu or a Muslim from India, and that's just based on sectarian lines. There are still lingering splits based on caste designations, even if castes technically shouldn't exist anymore. Even different regions within India have very different focuses, be they more urbanized, technical focused, or agricultural, that sort of thing. That, yeah, just bracketing everyone as one bucket doesn't work. And so she's come out and basically said, too many Indians are arriving. And so people are getting a bit upset at that, saying, she said, Labor's mucking things up, too many Indians coming in. And I mean, she's right to say that raising concerns about migration doesn't mean that you're racist, but it's one of those things of that she says she didn't say it or didn't bring it up and blames the reporter. Well, quite possibly it might have been. I haven't actually seen the original statement she made. That it was almost like, well, targeting of any one specific ethnic group in migration, well, is often seen as racism. But is there a point to be made? Is she accurate that they will soon become the largest migrant group to the nation? And what does that mean? And is it being done for political purposes? It's an interesting bow to draw, for sure. It's an interesting line to be made, and well, quite clearly, people are clutching pearls and saying that it's not good, and no, we don't want this, and it's bad things to say. It's like, well, okay, yep, it was certainly tone deaf. Is there anything to what she has said that is accurate? Is there anything that she has said that maybe she didn't find the right words for, but is pertinent to the ongoing discussion? Okay. The original migration path for Chinese and Indians, as I said here, was skilled migration. Okay, that's what everyone's been saying we want more of. But then they've moved to allow family reunion. Okay, so that's bringing in family members who may or may not have skills. Family reunions, hey, not a problem. Family reunions are a great thing. But if that's diluting the availability of skilled migrants, then it needs to be recognised that, okay, a skilled migrant might then chain migrate, which is, I think, a US term, 5 to 10 other people. Okay, well, they're going to have different demands on the Australian system. I mean, there may be children who need education, they're all going to need healthcare. They're not all going to be working as skilled workers. They shouldn't be working as skilled workers. Um, Otherwise, they can be migrated under employment categories. But it's I mean, it's humane to let people rejoin their families or have their families rejoin them. But if it is having an impact on the balance of skilled migration, or it represents massive numbers coming in that may not have been initially accounted for, okay. But the statement that went along with it and how it was made, yeah, could have been made a lot better. And yeah, it's sowing divide where if it was raising a proper question or a valid questions, yeah. And well, yes, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that there's large populations, particularly in Victoria. If you ever see the Indian cricket team playing Australia on a Boxing Day test, and look at the fact that their MCG's pretty much sold out, but you look at the balance of Indian flags or Indian supporters to Australian supporters and Australian flags, you'd be forgiven for thinking this was being played in India or in Indian home ground because of the proportion of supporters. It's great to have supporters of the visiting teams show up in such numbers and to be so vocal. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just compared to, say, when the English cricket team visits or a team from pretty much any other nation visits, they don't get support on that level. There is a very strong level of support amongst the Indian community for their sporting teams, etc. But it goes to show how strong the community is in Victoria and maybe other major cities around Australia, so they can fly down and see it. But how strong the community is within Australia that they can do that. And then also what cultural values they bring with them and everything else. So it's one of those things of, should she be forced to apologise for what she did? Well, did she actually say what was reported, or was that a misleading statement by the reporter? Well, I mean, both could be true. Both could be true. But I think the way the ongoing reporting's focused on it doesn't help. Really doesn't help.